Hello everyone, welcome to my Facebook Live Manjiri Monologues. Thank you so much for being here and I'm really excited. This is my third session and I'm really looking forward to having a chat with you. And today I'm going to talk about my very favorite book called In the Shadow of Inheritance. But before I come to that, I would like to announce the winner of last week's question. And the question was, it was based on the book Revolt of the Lembrun. And the question was, what was Xenia's number in the book? And only one person got it right. And that is Rujita Nyansagar. Congratulations, Rujita. You won a book and I will send it to you soon. And the answer was G23. So Xenia was called G23 in the book. Yes, thank you so much everyone. Welcome. I'm sorry about the glitches. I'm still trying to find my way through all these technicalities. But so, yes, I'm going to talk about In the Shadow of Inheritance, which is my romantic suspense book, is this Shadow of Inheritance. And this book has gone through many versions. So I first wrote it when I was in college in the 80s. Yes, I'm revealing my age. So in 80s when I was in college, my group of friends, I remember saying all the time, I want to be an author, I want to be a writer. And so my very close group of Ferguson friends, hi Amita, a close group of Ferguson friends gave me a full-skept notebook, and like a birthday gift and said that I could write in that. So at that point, I used to write everything by hand. So when I got that book, I was so excited that in 1 month straight, I wrote a novel called The Chatelaine. So the Chatelaine is, in French, of course, the Chatelaine is, it means the owner, the mistress of the chateau. And it took place in France and the heroine was called Melody. And the whole, I was really, how should I say, I think my love for destination thriller started way back in the 80s. Anyway, so I wrote that book at a stretch and, over the years, I've been trying to trying to get it published, but somewhere closer in the 90s, around late 80s, 90s, I remember my sister, who was one of the first computer professionals in the country. She told me, she said, times are changing. I think you should start writing on the computer now. And I was very hesitant. I was really fond of writing everything down, and until I saw it all in my writing, I didn't feel encouraged and inspired. And she kept telling me, she said, no, it's time for you to shift because, writing on a computer is very different. You can copy paste, you can delete, undelete. All this hassle of writing is going to be very easy for you now. So finally I took her word, and I remember one of my friends, Milind Moik, who's a painter. In his studio, he had a computer which was, I think, 286. I'm sure you haven't even heard of 286. But at that point, 286 was one of the first computers which came in. And I used to work the whole day in this television studio, Balchitravani, and then in the evenings, I would go to his studio and sit and work on the computer and transfer the Chatelaine entirely onto his computer. So that's how my computer journey started, and writing my novels on the computers started. And then, of course, the book got published much later. I turned it into what it is now called In the Shadow of Inheritance. From France, it now takes place in Mahabaleshwar, which is a very lovely hill station in Maharashtra. And from Melody, that was the name of the heroine, she became Tara Khanolkar. And so the book, got transformed in many ways. But basically, it's a romantic fiction. It's a romantic suspense, and it's the story of this girl called Tara, who is a very innocent, protected, sheltered girl who doesn't know that she's got this whole legacy behind her. So the book spans 20 years from the time she was born, when her father is killed, to the time she avenges her father's death. So it's a haunting romantic story, I call it, because it's a beautiful love story. It's suspense, and it is also talks about a mother and daughter's relationship. It's there's a very tight bond between her mother and Tara, and I have revealed there's certain areas which certain fields that get certain suspense elements which get drawn out of their relationship. So I'm going to read a bit out of a scene where Tara, who is so sheltered, begins to feel very claustrophobic, very, she wants to break out. She's too protected. And then this one holy night in her village, she lives in a village called Kesarli, where she lives with her governess called Miraka and her mom and her horse called Chandani. And she lives so Kesarli is of course a fictitious place, but it's a little bit off Goa, it's by the seaside. And so she starts to feel very restless. And the beginning of that restlessness is on one holy night. And I'm going to read that scene out to you where she first catches sight of Sarang. Okay? The women, children, and the older men gathered around the courtyard. Winnie and I squeezed through the crowd as the drums played loudly and the men began their holy dance. With their raised blazing torches, which created halos of red heat in the sky, and their sticks, they moved in a circle, dancing to the rhythm of the drum. Occasionally they screamed wildly, and the atmosphere was ripped with friction. Goosebumps rose on my arms and I clutched Winnie's hand. The cool night had suddenly turned into a furnace. I had witnessed this scene several times during my life in Kesarli, and yet, in each season, I experienced the same thrill and passion with the screams and burning torches. As if they were really waking up the rain gods with the scorching heat and with the ear-splitting screams, demanding that rain soak the dry earth for sowing. Standing on the edge of the circle, with the men hopping and jumping in intensity, I enjoyed every minute of it, relishing the custom and culture of my land. And then it happened. I felt it, a strong magnetic pull, a tug, and I turned and looked straight into a pair of watchful eyes. He was a tall man, with hair swept back from an intelligent forehead and a strong chin that bore the shadow of a deep cleft. In the flaming light of the torches, his features stood out sharply. His lips were set in a determined line, and yet there was no hint of menace. The color of his eyes was indiscernible in the golden glow of the fire, but I sensed that it was unusual. So was his expression as he regarded me with a certain element of curiosity and amusement. He stood a little distance away from the crowd, silent and observant, and I knew at once that he did not belong to Kesarli. He was dressed in black trousers and a thick navy blue jacket with open flaps at the front. As I stared at him, his lips twisted into a faint smile and he nodded his head in acknowledgement. A gush of warmth suffused my body. The impact of the smile left me shockingly breathless. Kesarli, with the ear-piercing screams of the villagers, suddenly dissolved into the night. My pulse raced and all I could hear was the frantic thudding of my heart. I was acutely aware of this handsome man who was staring boldly at me across the torchlit night, and involuntarily I returned the smile. Then, flustered because I realized with a start that I was actually encouraging a stranger, I wheeled back to face the dancing villagers where the music wafted into my senses in a heady rush. But oddly, the night of Holi and the merry-making groups had lost their charm. I was completely captivated by the stranger who had been staring at me in the dark. Who was he? I had never seen him around. What was he doing here? Curiosity fixed me in a tight grip, and I decided I had to satisfy it. With fresh resolve, I turned around to face him again and searched the dark depths of the night. But to my great surprise, he was nowhere to be seen. I quickly ran around the outer circle of the cheering watchers, threading between children and women, searching frantically for a glimpse of the tall figure, but in vain. He had vanished into the darkness. A shaft of pure disappointment sliced through me, accompanied by a sense of desperation. I couldn't understand. I felt as if I had lost a beloved friend and I had to find him before it was too late, which was absolutely ridiculous. I realized that my frustrations and hyper-imagination were playing tricks on my emotions and that I was losing my grip on reality. Nevertheless, as a last effort, I circled the whole group of watching villagers twice in the hope of spotting him. But it was a fruitless effort. He was gone. And finally, with great reluctance in my heart, I gave up. But I couldn't check the feeling of having connected, if only for a split second, and lost something dear to me. Yes, it was definitely that one brief encounter that changed my life forever. I could no more enjoy the simple pleasures of village life. My friends, my dreams, hobbies, the rituals, the village jaunts, all of which were constant pleasant companions since my childhood, had, in a flash, lost their adequacy and charm. The lure of the unknown, of the mysterious and undiscovered, seemed to be beckoning me, and although I did not quite understand it at that moment, destiny had paved the path for the future. So yes, that was just a tiny glimpse of the book, and my sister, who's my editor and who's been editing, my personal editor, let me say, has been editing my books for a long time. I remember she was the one who actually forced me to give this out to a publishing house, because somehow, I don't know, over the years I had this book became a kind of a how should I say, a personal hobby for me, because I'd written it almost like in my childhood and college, not childhood, but yeah, almost like that. And I was a little wary of sending it out to publishers. And it was Lena, my sister, who forced me to go into type on computers and write on computers. Also forced me to submit this book to a publisher. And this book came much later, actually. I think it must be my fifth book, or hi Vishal. It came, I think it was my fifth or sixth book, and I somehow didn't have the guts to send it out to some publisher, because I had this feeling that, I don't know, I wanted to hold it close for some reason. But she convinced me, and I sent it out to Penguin, and I remember I sent it to Vaishali Mathur, who was the senior commissioning editor at that point, and she just picked up the book and she loved it, and Penguin published it. And so I'm actually waiting for Vaishali to come online now, because I wanted to talk about the book and everything. And till Vaishali comes, I'm expecting her any minute in the studio. Would any of you like to ask me any questions? Or is there anything you want to know? Or I can just take a look at the comments. Yeah, Harmonica, nothing like a romantic essence. I agree with you. I know, I love romance too. I think it's a universal emotion, and no matter how much mystery I write, I always have to have a thread of romance in it. So I believe that romance crosses all genres, all boundaries, every kind of, how should I say, diversity in the world. It's a binding factor. So romance is an inherent part of my books. And, yes, what else? I'm just going to look at the comments. Yes, hi everyone. Hello. Yes. Before Vaishali comes, I can even ask you, since you've heard me talk now, and I've already given the clue to my question in what I've already said. So I'm going to ask you the question, which the lucky one is going to get a winning copy of this book. Oh yeah, so Vaishali is coming online. So let me yes, she is here. And so it gives me really great pleasure to welcome Vaishali Mathur to this live chat. And Vaishali, I'm going to add you in now. Hi Vaishali.
Hi Manjiri.
Hi, great to have you here, Vaishali.
Great to be here.
Yeah, so Vaishali, like I said, is very special to me, because not just because she took my book In the Shadow of Inheritance, but I've known her for a long time. She came to my the first year in our Lit Fest, and there were many ups and downs, but she was very sporting about it. So, and then of course, another year when the festival was in a better position, I said, you have to come back and erase the memories of the first festival. So she was kind enough to do that too. So welcome, Vaishali. So I'm going to jump into a question for you. You've been at Penguin for more than 10 years now, right?
Yeah.
So how has the journey been so far? And now you're also heading the language and rights department. So how do you balance your whole day, or your your time between manuscripts and editing and now heading this department? How do you do that?
I'm actually heading the whole of Hindi publishing as well. So,
okay.
So it's not only rights and language publishing, it's also Hindi. And then
All right.
I have a whole list of English books. that I
Okay.
have. So I don't manage. I just juggle. I don't know what I'm doing seriously.
But it's
Yeah, I mean it's good to plan, but most of the time these plans don't work, as we all know. So yeah, I mean one just tends to divide the whole week into the time period that you know, like for editing, for reading manuscripts, and then for office work, acquiring rights, things like that. But honestly, not it's not a very planned or organized way in which I function. So, but juggling several things is something I do. So kind of make it happen. That's all.
But then on an average, how many manuscripts do you think you read in a year?
Uh, oh wow. Okay. So manuscripts that I edit are also read. I think I do about 17 books a year,
Wow.
which I actually edit. And then we publish about 50 books in Hindi. So
Okay.
most of them are read. And then you get at least 1 to 2 manuscripts a day.
Okay.
So, so you can imagine.
So
I don't,
do you dream of these manuscripts when you sleep, because there's so much reading happening? And when do you
yeah,
get
yeah.
time to have reading, like for reading for yourself, like just reading some books or for entertainment? When do you get time for that?
Well, what I try to do is that when we were actually working and going to Gurgaon, then the commute time was my own time, and so I would read, and then 1 hour before sleeping, I keep it only for my reading,
Okay.
and I also now have gotten into this habit of reading audiobooks. So when I do my walks, I generally tend
Listen.
to listen to a book. And I mean, some book that I'm not like, I just need to read just for the sake of reading and need to have that knowledge, or I have huge amount of curiosity. Those ones I read in audio. And then I have a stand that I bought from Japan. Um, and that I keep next to my gas. So when I'm cooking, I just read, and that's how I try and manage. But
Wow, that's a
yeah,
lot of reading. So,
yeah.
Vaishali, a personal question: are you looking forward to writing a book one day?
Well, I am writing
Okay.
a book. It's a thriller.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it's a thriller I'm writing, and but it's taking me a lot of time, Manjari. I
I
don't
can
get
imagine.
enough time to. Yeah, I'm hoping for a chunk of time where I can actually sit
Yeah,
down and read it. Yeah,
it must be tough. Yeah, must be tough finding
yeah,
time.
yeah. How are you doing?
Well, yeah, trying to make use of this lockdown, trying to write,
Yeah,
which is very difficult with all the cooking and cleaning. My energy
yeah,
is gone in the cooking and cleaning, and which is not my most favorite,
yeah.
activity in the world. So I
If you have
guess,
to do
yeah,
it every day, it's never a favorite, is it?
I know, and yeah, I mean, I'm just trying. So I try to find some time
Yeah.
for writing, but
Okay.
it's very difficult. Yeah, I mean, when I see people in this lockdown churning out book after book, and I'm so surprised, and I feel, how do they do it? But because it's not at all easy for me. But yes, I'm writing my next destination thriller right now,
Right.
and hopefully it'll be over by the end of August. But anyway, so Vaishali, when I sent you In the Shadow of Inheritance, what did
Yeah.
you initially think of it, and how was the whole process of editing it? And I remember we discussed the cover, and I love the
Yeah.
cover, by the way. I still think it's one of my
Yeah.
favorite
Yeah.
covers. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, tell me your thoughts on that.
Okay, so I remember that I had been reading your books and manuscripts for a while. You remember we were already in conversation when you actually sent me In
Yeah,
the Shadow of Inheritance,
yeah,
and I do remember that I felt it was something that you hadn't been writing earlier.
yeah,
It's not something that you write usually. So I was pleasantly surprised because I love the story. I love the
yeah,
fact that it was actually a thriller romance based in India.
yeah,
I love the fact that the whole, I think Pune and all the other. Where is the? I'm sorry, it's been a long time.
Mahabaleshwar. It takes place in
Yes,
Mahabaleshwar,
yeah,
Shalimar,
yeah.
at the
And the
Vena Lake.
beauty of the rains and you know how in a small place like that there is this big house and how this mystery develops there and the family and everything was so accurate and yet it was something that I felt was at a very international sort of level. I didn't feel at all that there was something Indian about it in that sense. So it's very rare to find that combination. And I think my favorite books, and I have recently recommended it to my sister's book club.
Oh,
So
nice.
I spoke to, yeah, they were looking for some nice books to read, and she didn't want it to be too heavy. At the same time, she wanted an Indian writer. And
Yeah,
most thrillers we know that become popular are the ones that foreign writers write. So kind of disappointing in a way.
yeah.
So I was happy to recommend In the Shadow of Inheritance for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you told me, I said, when you took the book, you said, I'm not expecting this book to be an overnight hit, you said. I expect
Yeah.
it to have a long run and a long inning. I
Yeah.
remember you
Yeah.
saying that this is a book which is
Yeah.
going to linger, you said. And I think that's
Yeah.
exactly what's happening to the book. It's still on, it's still being read slowly.
Yeah.
People are kind of going back to it in a different way to savor it,
Yeah.
more like savoring it than, reading it and finishing it off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you so much for publishing it because before
Not
you
at
came on,
all.
before you came, I was just saying this that I'd written this book in college, then it went through many changes, and I was very hesitant to give it out to any publisher. And my sister,
Yeah.
because I was kind of protective about it, and my sister
Uh,
forced me to send it to you actually. And that
yeah.
is how I did. So thanks so much for publishing it. It's one of
Not
my,
at all. I think that it's is one of the books that you wrote very long time back, and you were also kind of taken aback when I said yes to it. I think, yeah,
I know, I was surprised. Yeah,
because you were pushing your thrillers, and I was like, no, this one works for me. This is the sort
yeah,
of book that I feel that I can work with.
right.
And I love how the two girls grow together. I like how
Yeah,
there is a secret in their lives, and I love how the romance is completely like a Mills and Boons, and yet it is the
yeah,
Indian setup, so Indian milieu and
yeah.
Goa and everything. Quite authentic in that sense, and
Yes,
very
yeah.
beautifully done, Manjari. So congratulations on writing such a nice book.
Thank you so much. So, Vaishali, I know there are many aspiring authors, and I know that this video will be looked at even after it's done. So, a lot of aspiring authors are going to listen to you after this. So, I want to ask you
Yeah,
some quick 5, 6 questions on what you look for in a manuscript. Okay,
yeah,
so you can answer in a word or two words, but give me whatever comes to your mind first. Okay, so
yeah,
this is submission advice in a couple of words. Okay,
yeah,
when a
yeah.
manuscript, tell me about a manuscript. Okay, a manuscript that excites you must have fill in the blank.
Um, X Factor and a very well written story.
Okay, X Factor and a very well written story. Okay, everyone listening, please listen to this. Um, a topic that doesn't excite you is about or is
There is hardly any topic that doesn't excite me.
okay. So
Yeah,
every
but the topic that doesn't excite me and it's going, I mean, if it is based on hygiene, we
okay.
did a book on, we did a book on manual scavenging, and I found it very difficult to deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Okay. For example, I don't think I'll ever write mythology.
yeah.
Mythology sells, but I somehow I don't
I
think
mean,
I'll
you
ever
have to
write.
write what comes organically. You can't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that okay. Then
yeah.
your favorite genre is
I think thriller,
thriller.
murder
Okay.
mysteries. Yeah, yeah,
All right. That so mine too.
yeah,
Okay. So when someone submits something to you, a
yeah.
must-have for a submission is
I like clear proposals, clear-cut proposals. I like people who have read our submission guidelines and submit the proposals in one shot. So I
yeah,
expect people to have an author bio, a synopsis, and
yeah,
a couple of chapters there. I like that. I like to make personal connect with people who make the submission, but then people should also ask questions which, as an editor, you get hundreds of emails every day. So people also must appreciate that you have a paucity of time, and if you have to do justice to your work, you can't be doing emailing with new authors who keep asking questions constantly. So I would suggest that people try and Google and get as much information as possible and then get connected with an editor and actually make a very, very clear submission, which is probably the reason why I keep talking about it on Twitter and
Twitter,
on
yeah,
my
I'm just going to
Instagram.
say
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
You have these
So,
very funny experiences that you mention on Twitter.
yeah, yeah.
And your funny remarks, yeah, I really enjoy those.
I
Yeah,
mean, I try and show you the other side of it, like
yeah,
how you're looking at it. So, yeah.
yes, yeah. So I think you've already said a must have for a submission. Okay, you simply love this in an author. What is it?
I love the authors who are committed to their books. And have vision for their book and contribute time for their book.
Okay,
There are a lot of, you will be surprised that there are a lot of authors who simply give their books and then it becomes a task for us as an editor to promote the books because the author hasn't kept enough time aside to promote the books
book, yeah,
or to work with us on the book or to have a vision for their book.
right,
So it really helps, even in editing, it really helps if the author uses his or her instinct to work with us. And
right,
then to take it forward in terms of marketing is also something that
yeah,
the authors do need to contribute. Because see, we are all large companies. So how will a person come to know if the author does not actually work on their own books?
yeah.
So that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. An author today has to be completely involved from start to
Yes.
end because, yeah, it's the author's baby and you have to work in collaboration with the publisher to make sure it's read. Basically, it
Yeah,
needs to be
listen,
read.
like I'll tell you, it's as simple as that. It takes uh, a book, um, 3 months to be on the front list and 3 weeks to be on the bookshelf. And every book publisher is putting out at least 150 to 200 books a year. So just imagine the shelf
Yeah,
occupied with all these sellers. Who is going to pick what? Unless you've heard about it, you are not going to pick up the book.
that's right.
So if people are not going to pick up the book, that kind of defeats the purpose of you writing the book and putting it out. So
Yeah,
that kind of involvement is needed.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then you simply hate this in an author. I guess it's a part of the answer. You simply hate this
Yeah.
in an author. What is it?
I would, you know what? I don't hate anything in my authors because if you, I mean, those manuscripts simply don't find a space if there is something that's not to love. So no, nothing. I have worked for more than 12 to 15 years in publishing, and my relationships with my authors have been for whether I publish them or not going forward.
Yeah,
My relationships have been solid, and there is nothing I hate about it. It's just, like it's just that sometimes things don't work well and sometimes things work well. That's all it is.
that's true. Yeah.
So hate
It's
would
not
be too
personal.
strong a word.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's never personal. It's never personal. So,
No, it's never at all. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So great. So any final advice you want to give our listeners as a
See,
publisher? Yeah,
yeah. I would suggest that when people write, that they should read a lot. They should know what genre they are writing in, even if it's a crossover genre, or even if it is something they haven't read. There
yeah,
would be parallels about the book, so it would be good to just read up as much as possible to be sure of your writing. Don't just simply because it comes to a publisher doesn't mean it's going to get published. So just make sure you make as much effort as possible into your writing, and don't be in a hurry to publish because
yeah.
once you have been rejected, there is seldom a second chance you get from the same publisher.
True.
So don't be in a hurry to publish, and also be very, very clear about your proposal. Like I've always said that I don't know. This is just coming to me out of the blue. A proposal comes to me and it's in my inbox and I read it. But a lot of authors in that little space are able to explain and make you visualize the book, and you know they have a clear cut vision for their own book, and they even tell you how they're going to work around it and how they're going to promote the book or things like that. So
Yeah.
having a vision about your book is very important, and I'm assuming that if you have a vision, then these are the back steps you've already taken. You've read a lot, you've seen where your book falls in, you kind of create that sort of writing that you expect, and also do visit bookstores. It's a very good idea to visit bookstores and see who is putting out what. And sometimes, there are a lot of publishers who are concentrating on mass market fiction. There are a lot of publishers who are heavily inclined to literary fiction. There are publishing houses which specialize in coffee table books. So do have a sense of it instead of sending it out without knowing where you're sending it, because then you will be disappointed. That fitment is important. Which
Right.
editor you're sending out to. Every commissioning editor has a specialization no matter what they say. So for instance, I do a lot of mass market and mind, body, spirit. Now I will do other genres, but they will be in a limited number, right? So if you send me a book that is high end literary, it's okay with me because I have reached that stage where I can. But most commissioning editors in their initial stages only commission into very limited lists. So if you're going to send it to them, then it becomes something that might just get rejected and make you feel disappointed about it. So that would be one of the things that I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I always say that if a publisher is looking for pani puri, there's no point sending him a dessert.
Yeah, yeah. No, by the way, send the pani puri and forget about the dessert.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Vaishali. It's been such a pleasure having
Yeah,
you
it's
here,
been a
and
pleasure.
I'm going to send you a book soon.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Manjiri.
Yes, I know, because this Shadow of Inheritance has been published long ago, and
Yeah,
7-8 years ago, and it's time for me to send you another book, and I will remember all these criteria that you already told all of us,
yeah.
and I will send you something.
You are
So thank
already a veteran in it.
No. But every book is like a first book, and every time you send it out to a publisher, your heart is beating, and almost it's like palpitations because you don't
Yeah,
know what the
yeah,
editor is going to say. So you
yeah,
know it. Yeah. So
yeah.
it's a tough journey from
Yes,
writing the book to getting it published, and it's nice to
yeah.
have friends in publishing. But I know it doesn't mean that your book will get published, because that
Exactly,
depends
yeah.
entirely
On the
on what.
merit of
Yes.
the book. That's true.
Yes. So
Yes.
thank you so much, and
Thank
I'll be
you.
in touch again. Yeah. Thanks, Vaishali.
Thanks, Manjari. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Yes, so that was Vaishali Mathur, and I hope you got a lot of tips from her. And I'm going to just take some quick questions here. One second. Um, so Farid, one second. I'm going to take this question. Oh, sorry. You have worked with a number of publishing houses. Do you have a preference amongst them? What is your criteria for choosing a publishing house? Farida, well, it depends a lot on the books that you write. For example, for my destination thrillers, I wanted an international publishing house, and that's why I approached Bloomsbury, and they were happy to publish it because I wanted an international name. But there are other books. For example, I'm writing a non-fiction book on dogs, and I want a publishing house which isn't very huge but is very committed, and who committed to my work and committed to presenting it well, and takes personal interest in the book. So I've gone to a smaller but an established publishing house. Having said that, it is not always up to the writer to choose a publishing house. Like you just heard, Vaishali, there's many a slip between the cup and the lip. So you may write a good novel, but finding a publisher could be difficult. But if I'm given a choice, definitely I will choose. Yes. Going on to the next question. One second. Yeah. So Amita's question. One second. Amita says, are you involved in the covers of the books or do the publishers decide this independently? Amita, I have to be involved in the covers of the books because I think the book, when you see it on the shelf, it's the first thing you see about the book is the cover. And that cover has to represent what I feel about the book. So I do give publishers a blurb of what the cover should be like. For example, if it's a, rainy season, or for a science fiction, I say that, this element has to be, this color should be there, or the person should look like this. I give references to figures, to backdrops. For example, Voice of the Runes, I gave them the picture of the cathedral. I said, this is the color I want. So yes, I am very deeply involved in the covers of all my covers, in fact. And the publishers are very kind enough to take my opinions and make changes as per what I want. So I think until I have, honestly, at the risk of sounding a little conceited, I have rejected many covers, and I've got them remade just till I get the vision right. So yes, I'm very, very, very deeply connected with my covers, and I like to get them right, or like to get them as per what's in my head or the way I wrote the book. So that atmosphere has to be very right. Yes, harmonica, browsing in bookstores is a hearted, mindful activity even for avid readers. Yes. Thank you, Amita. Harmonica is saying, your international thrillers are engrossingly thrilling. Enjoyed both your Voice of the Runes and Trail of Four. Both have magnificent book covers. Yes, thank you very much. Bloomsbury was very, very, very cooperative, and we've had many discussions. In fact, even with this cover, with The Shadow of Inheritance, this cover that you see, I don't know if the light is reflecting a bit, but this cover is something Vaishali and I both worked on, because it just had to convey the right thing. So you can see that there's a house at the backdrop where the whole Rajwara, where the whole story takes place, and the romance is so strong. So it had to convey both. So yes, thank you, Mom. Well, so that's it for today. I have to just ask you the question for this book, and the lucky winner is going to get a copy of The Shadow of Inheritance. Now, the answer I've already mentioned in my talk in the last half an hour. So if you've listened, you'll know what the answer is. The question is, what is the name of Tara's horse in the book? Tara has a favorite horse when she's living in Kesarli, and she's very attached to the horse. And what is the name of the horse? Please send me private messages, and the lucky winner will get a copy of the book. So thank you so much, all of you, for encouraging me, for being here, and to listen to me talk about my books. It's a dream for an author to keep talking about the books because, well, you know why. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next Saturday with another book. Thank you, and bye-bye.